Over the last couple of months, I've spent about $6,000 advertising playlists to make them more popular and get them followers. And in this video, I'm going to break down everything I've learned from doing that. So I'll get into the good, the bad, what's working, what is definitely not working, and just pull back the curtain a little bit on the playlisting service that I talked about in a video like a month ago. So if you're interested in getting more streams on Spotify, building your own popular playlist, being a playlist curator, hopefully this stuff will be helpful. And with all that said, let's get into it. All right, so here we are at the old computer screen. And first I just wanted to give a little recap of what the service is, how it works. So I'm advertising these playlists using meta ads. We basically run these videos on Instagram mostly, sometimes Facebook, and send people to a landing page, and then from the landing page send them to the playlist. So that is the premise. We're using meta ads to build Spotify playlists. So in the last month, I have run, this is like the last 2-ish months. I've run 36 campaigns and have spent just about $6,000 for clients building their playlists. I'm going to talk through the spreadsheet and what I'm seeing, but basically this is every campaign I've run, the amount I've spent, the amount of followers I've gotten, how much it cost based on the amount I spent and the amount of followers I got per follower. When artists gave me access, I recorded how many streams the playlist drove over the time period we were advertising it. Also how many songs the artist put on the playlist. First song spot is when was the first spot on the playlist that was the artist's song, so this person didn't put their own song until the 15th spot on the playlist. This person put their own song in the second spot, and so on. And then which genre of music? Everyone gets mad whatever I say about their genre, but this is just for my own thinking. And then this, which I need to expand, winning video I haven't filled in yet. This was going to be a link to the winning video, but I realized I don't have live links to all the winning videos. And anyway, I looked at the top 10 winning videos and didn't feel like filling out all 36. So that is the context of the spreadsheet. And so there are a couple big takeaways here. First of all, the average cost per follower is about 60 cents. So if I spend 60 cents, I basically expect to get one follower for a client. But this is a little bit misleading because the median is about here. So somewhere in between these. And so it's probably higher than 60, like just in your given campaign. It's counterbalanced by these two, which are super cheap. And then one more big caveat is that there are a couple of these. So, and actually, I know for a fact this was stupid of me, but I didn't record how many followers were on this playlist when I started advertising it. And so I'm actually not 100% sure how many of these are from my campaign and how many just existed before I started doing anything. So I definitely cannot claim credit for all 1,200 of these, and that definitely throws off the overall number of followers. So when I paired out my outliers, I basically came to an average cost per follower of about 75 cents. And that seems about right to me based on the experience running all these campaigns, but it also is much higher than honestly what I was expecting based on the campaigns I've been running for myself. So my own data had suggested that it was about 50 cents to get a playlist follower. After running 36 of these campaigns, it's definitely something closer to like 75 cents per playlist follower just for an average playlist. So that's the data as a whole, but I was actually even more interested in the top campaign specifically because I wanted to see, are there commonalities in the campaigns that are actually working really well? And if so, how can I replicate that so that I do more good campaigns and fewer bad ones? So this is a breakdown of, it's not the exact top 13 from this in terms of cost per follower, because you'll see I paired out this one where I don't know how many followers I drove for that and a couple of others. But these are all campaigns that I verified actually did work well. And so I thought they were good ones to study. So I actually just added this average in here. But you can see a good campaign does run at about 50 cents, 46 cents per follower, which is kind of what I was expecting all campaigns would do, but it turns out those are the good ones. Now, most artists don't give me access to their Spotify for Artists. I do ask all clients if they're willing to share, but a lot of them just would prefer not to, which is totally fine. And so in the cases where I could collect streaming data, I found that the average streams per song on one of these playlists was 280. Had one campaign that had 6 songs on a playlist, drove almost 5,000 streams in about a month. And in my worst one, although it's only spent $30 so far out of this, is only driven 45 streams for 6 songs. On the flip side, there are definitely some campaigns where I've driven followers and have not driven any streams. So that is a possibility. I'm unsure exactly why that happens, why you get followers on a playlist without streams. I think there could be a few different reasons. Spotify could just shadow ban a playlist if they think it's sketchy. And I also have noticed there's a little bit more of an issue with this if you're making ambient or sleep sounds. So Spotify is more hesitant to credit those playlists with streams in my anecdotal experience. I know that these have driven more. I just don't have access to the artist data. A couple of other interesting things. It doesn't seem to make too much of a difference where you put your song. Like, it's not a major turnoff if the artist's song is first. Some people are worried that if they put their song at the top of the playlist, it'll dissuade people from listening to the playlist because they'll be like, who is this person? But it apparently doesn't have a huge effect because many of my good campaigns had the song in first place from the artist. And on average, the song was in the third spot. And honestly, this is probably the single biggest factor in how well a playlist campaign performs is the genre of the playlist. In general, I would say the more kind of mainstream commercial a playlist is, the better a chance it has to perform. There was one playlist that was like feelings. It's just a hard thing to qualify like what that means. It's much easier if there's like a real clear hook into what the playlist is, and if the playlist is making something that's in a pretty mainstream genre. That stuff seems to do the best. So you can see the most common genre on these top performing campaigns was pop. I only did 2 Christian playlists over the last month. Both of those were in my top 5 campaigns. I think that's probably because my account was a little bit seeded with some Christian music data, since that was the sort of music I was promoting for myself before. But just an interesting thing, it seems to be pretty easy to advertise Christian music. There's definitely an audience for it. You can definitely be super cynical about that, but that's just an interesting note of data. Yeah, pop, super common. And then you don't see a ton of folk, only 2 on these top 13, and I advertise a decent bit of folk playlists. I think it's a little bit hard to do the more like Americana, singer-songwriter stuff that's not as slick, or like kind of mainstream indie folk, bedroom pop folk, that type of stuff. All right, and then the last 2 things I wanted to point out. This one is honestly a little bit controversial, but I just want to tell you about it in the interest of transparency. I have been open to using songs on the playlist in promoting the playlist themselves. So, for example, if I have a playlist that has a Benson Boone song in the first spot, I might do a screen recording of my phone playing the Benson Boone song and then use that audio from the screen recording as part of the playlist ad. I am not a copyright expert, but I'm almost sure this is probably technically against copyright law. I'm not a copyright expert, so don't quote me or sue me, but I feel somewhat uncomfortable with the legality of that. I honestly don't feel uncomfortable about the morality of it, because I feel like if I'm promoting a playlist that this song is on and I'm driving traffic to this song, I feel okay using it as part of the promotion. Like, I think it will be a net benefit to the person whose song I'm using, but it's a little bit of a weird, blurry area, and if that makes you uncomfortable, you could totally tell me not to use it and just use your song in playlist ads. But also, you see, when you do use a song from a major genre as like screen recording, those are some of the most successful campaigns. And just to clarify one more thing for how I think about this, if I was using somebody's song to promote some other product, so like say I'm using a Benson Boone song to promote my own brand of water bottle or something, and I'm putting that in the background to sell my water bottles, I would feel bad about that. But I don't feel bad about it because I'm using it to send traffic to his song. So I'm using the song to benefit the song, and that's why I don't feel bad about it. But feel free to come at me, and maybe I should not have shared this, but I just want to be as transparent as possible, so I will stop talking about it now. Most of these campaigns used a kind of legit looking cover art. It seemed to kind of match the Spotify moods. It seemed to be like clean, simply designed, well designed, versus something cluttered or that someone obviously put together with weird scripts in Canva. Or the alternative, there are a few, I think there are 3 actually on this list, I didn't mark them down, that had no cover art, and so when you do that, it's just like the different album covers. So you can have a successful campaign if you don't have good cover art, but it definitely helps to have something that is pretty professionally designed. That was a common theme in these campaigns too. And the last thing I wanted to show you is just an example of the sorts of ads that are working for me in these campaigns. This is one of them. So it's just this guy headbanging. This is featuring an artist song, this one. And then you kind of have a screen recording of the playlist, just kind of merged into the clip. Then the playlist cover comes out. So I'll show you that again. So you're giving them some kind of hook in, and then you're showing them the playlist to make it clear it's a playlist featuring the loudest hits. And then you're telling them, save it and rock now. That is Pretty standard example of the ads that are doing well for us. So that's what the data looks like. That is how things have been going and what works, what is not working as well. I did want to get your help with one thing. So when I launched my playlisting service running these sorts of campaigns, I was working on the assumption that it would cost me about 50 cents to drive a playlist follower. And I've found, as you saw in this video, that it costs more like 75 cents. And so I basically need to adjust what I guarantee in terms of results, how many followers I can get people, or adjust how much I charge for a campaign. And so I put a poll in like my post section of this channel, basically asking the question, would you rather me raise prices or would you rather me lower the guarantee? I would love your feedback if you have a couple seconds. I think it'd be super interesting. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful if you're running your own ads, building your own playlists, or if you just like listening to weird marketing people on the internet. Regardless of what you're doing, as always, wishing you good luck as you make and market your music. You got this.